Welcome back to DataBytez, your number one source for data-driven content. Today's subject is mindset. Specifically, don't run away, refusing to run away from what's difficult. Often we go through life and things are scary. I'm not going to lie to you and say nothing is frightening. There's so much uncertainty in the world. There's so much to be afraid of that it's natural to want to run away from that. We naturally want to run away from this discomfort. So there's nothing wrong with that. But in reality, it's a response that has lost a lot of meaning in the modern world and will actually hurt you more often than help you. And we're going to really dive into that. The goal here is to give you a base to when these feelings crop up again, as they always do, you push forward instead of going away, you running away. And that will help, hopefully, if you do that enough times, you build the resilience up and achieve the success you're really meant for and living up to your actual potential. So I want to start off with a little cartoon. And I'm sure you've probably seen this cartoon many times, and at least I've seen it a majority of times. And you never know how close you are. So you never should give up on your dreams. And you can see from the cartoon here, the guy on the bottom, he would have made it, if he just pushed a little bit more. But as life tends to be, you get discouraged. You're not seeing the immediate results. You're wondering if you're even, if you're wasting your time pursuing what you thought was going to be there. But it's just over the edge, and we never know where that edge is. So that's kind of the point here. And so going from there, understanding that it's natural to run away. I touched on this at the very beginning, but when backed into a corner, our instincts boil down to fight or flight. So running away is a natural survival mechanism. It is the byproduct of millions, billions of years of evolution, right? However, the world is more safe than we care to realize. We are not in danger of being attacked by tigers in the woods or something like that. Disease is, while it's still around, it's not nearly as rampant where if we got a cut, all of a sudden we're going to get septic and die, right? So our instinct to run away does us a disservice by making us destroy opportunities presented to us. And we're also quick to abandon things without immediate progressive feedback, and this stems from our belief and our desire for linear and causal based expectations. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's say if you were in front of me and I were to push you, I can see that has an immediate response. You fall down maybe or whatever, right? But if I push you and nothing happens, then I'm instantly confused because there is not an immediate feedback to inform me that an action has occurred. Like, let's say I push you and then you all of a sudden feel it a month from now. We wouldn't know, there would be no way for me to know that I had an immediate effect on you, or if I had an effect on you at all. And that's what I mean by a linear response. So we expect to do something and immediately get that feedback, but that's not how life works. Life is really based on non-linearity. So our need for linearity kind of does us a disservice here. So words of wisdom on progress. We're really focusing on the progress portion here, because when we run away, it's because beyond just fear, it's just that we don't see any progress happening. It's just we just think we're wasting our time, right? But these words of wisdom come from George Orwell. You might know him from his seminal book, 1984. And he says here that progress is not an illusion. It happens, but it is slow and invariably disappointing. So again, it's based on this expectation. We expect things to happen a certain way. We expect certain reactions to get certain results. But it's not how it works. Progress is very slow and it's often disappointing to us. So what is the real solution here? We can know this, but there could be another tool in our toolbox that we can use to kind of help us along dealing with this invisible progress, right? And that solution, whether you want to like, well, how, depending on how you feel about it, is faith. Having faith in the process. So if we look at the words here from Napoleon Hill, faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. Faith is the basis of all miracles and all mysteries which cannot be analyzed by the rules of science. Faith is the only known antidote for failure. Now, this is not necessarily a religious faith, and you don't have to look at it in the lens of religion, but you can just look at it in the lens of faith in your abilities, right? Faith that everything is going to work out. Faith that you are heading in the right direction. So everyone might be saying you're wasting your time, that you're not doing the right thing, that, if you wanted to start a business and you're thinking about maybe quitting your job or something like that, it feels like you're just jumping off a ledge and you don't know what's below. Is your business going to be successful? You'd like to believe so. You might have a plan, but I think the saying goes, if you want to make God laugh, show him your plans, because your plans are just not going to go how you imagine them to go. You're not going to get the results you imagine you were going to receive. But if you have faith that eventually things will go out the way you want them to, by consistent effort, by a continued adaptation, things will work out one way or another. And so, faith can be a wishy-washy thing because of the connotation for religion, and you just might not have a faith. But I believe you don't necessarily need to have faith in a God. You could just have faith in yourself. If nothing else, you can have faith in yourself that you are a capable person, able to find solutions and eventually succeed. And this touches on something that I've talked about before, habitual construction. Faith without action is nothing. So you need to work every day to be a little bit better. And James Clear said, to this day, I think says it the best way, which is the 1% rule. And so from his book, Atomic Habits, I'll read this part here. It says, making a choice that is 1% better or 1% worse seems insignificant in the moment. But over the span of moments that make up a lifetime, these choices determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. That said, it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether your habits are putting you on the path towards success. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. You see, you need to understand that this world, this universe, is not governed by linearity. It is not causal in that A leads to B leads to C. We like to think that, but it's not. It's nonlinear. And with nonlinear systems, there is a tipping point, a critical juncture in which the dam breaks, and then all the things you've worked for, all the things you've mastered, bear fruit. And you need to constantly remind yourself of this, because it can get pretty dark when, you're just looking in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing with my life? Am I making progress? Am I really doing the right thing? Again, if you are where you're at least working in the right direction, that you are making a little bit of progress every day, then armed with this knowledge, you can at least rest assured that it's going to eventually bear fruit. You do not know when. That is the real problem, is that you do not know when it will pay off, but it will. And just having faith that it will can give you the strength to keep pushing forward and not give up. So you need to ask yourself, is what I am doing right now, putting me on the trajectory of where I want to be? Now, I'm not saying you should live life in a way where you only participate You only do things that put you on the chosen trajectory. Again, it's a 1% rule. You just need to do 1% better every day, because all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You can do it, right? I think you will get faster results, assuming you're not burning yourself out. If you went ham, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But, that's not for everyone. Not everyone's built that way. And so, and I don't think you should punish yourself for not going ham all the time. You just need to start off with 1%. You can't just expect yourself from going from nothing to 100 consistently. And so if you could just at least do 1% every day, that's all you really need. But I want you to be aware of what you are choosing, right? It's about awareness. Without awareness, life ends up passing you by. And before you know it, you're old. And you end up lamenting the time that you've wasted. In the words of the Roman philosopher Seneca, one of my favorites, the largest portion of our life passes while we are doing ill, a godly share while we are doing nothing, and the whole while we are doing that which is not to the purpose, and the purpose is your goal. So do not put yourself in a position where you will regret your life because you failed to really follow through. You only get one life, and you really want to make it the best that you can. Now, a word on fear, on the aspect of fear, because even if I say this, we're gonna have to tackle that fear aspect at some point, right? This does not eliminate fear. So let us hear some words of wisdom from the illustrious Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent. Now, this comes from his book, The 50th Law, which is kind of like a biography that he partnered with Robert Greene. And it says here, the greatest fear people have is that of being themselves. They want to be 50 Cent or someone else. They do what everyone else does, even if it doesn't fit where and who they are. But you get nowhere that way. Your energy is weak, and no one pays attention to you. You're running away from the one thing that you own, what makes you different. I lost that fear. And once I felt the power that I had by showing the world I didn't care about being like other people, I could never go back. So you really want to hop in your identity, right? You really want to embrace who you are. And, that can be very difficult depending on whatever insecurities that you have about yourself. But you just kind of have to embrace it, because the sooner you can be your authentic self, the sooner you can embrace that fear of, let's say you want to do this, everyone's telling you no, and it's saying it's a mistake, and they fill your head up with all the different things that they don't want to do. You're settling to be like everyone else, right? No, be you. Be you. Even if it seems kind of scary, it's better that you be yourself and you live a life with far less regrets that way. And now the next part is embracing hardship. You need to choose to do what is difficult. You need to choose to be uncomfortable. You need to choose to be different. Being different is not comfortable. We naturally want to be like everyone else. Standing out is actually a kind of a bad thing, Think about it like this. Let's say you're in your friend group, right? And everyone likes doing a certain activity, and you're the only one that hates it. All of a sudden, your friends are looking at you a little sideways, like, hey, man, why can't you be like everyone else? Stop being so weird, blah, blah, blah. Forget them. Be you and choose to be who you are. If they can't accept that, they shouldn't even be your friends, And it can be uncomfortable to put your hand up and say, I'm not like the rest of you. But that is what you need to do. And you shouldn't be ashamed about that. And when it comes to choosing what is difficult, if you choose what is easy your whole life, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to grow. You need to embrace discomfort, because that is the only time you can really say that you're growing. Now, there's different ways of dealing with discomfort. Or I shouldn't say, there's different forms, there are different flavors of discomfort. And I would say not all of them are, effective. So for instance, you can lay on a bed of nails And you can do that every day. That's not really helping you much, even though it's uncomfortable. No, what I mean by discomfort, it's saying, is taking on a project that you don't immediately know that you can do. That is what I'm talking about. Taking on a problem where you don't know if you have the answer right away. That's going to force you to think. It's going to force you to do things that you've never done before. That is the kind of discomfort that I'm talking about. Going up in front of a bunch of people, saying what you think, not knowing how they're going to take it. They might boo you. Oh, well, whatever. As long as it's in alignment with where you want to be, that's what you should do. If you want to be a stand-up comic, right? Tell jokes to your friends. If you want to be a salesman, approach a stranger and say, hey, I'm here to peddle you, whatever, I'm here to peddle you. That's the kind of discomfort I'm talking about. And I think a great lesson here, or a great lens to approach this comes from a book called Whatever It Takes, from Brandon, I do not know how to say his last name, Borneson, which is running towards your fears. So get excited about fear and rejection, then run up to it. Doing the easy thing and being comfortable will leave you with an average life. That is what everyone else is doing. And again, it's the truth. Everyone's just doing things that are a surefire way, right? The W-2 job, whatever they say, as long as they keep their head down, they're fine. I've seen it a lot of times. And it ends up, let me tell you something, it ends up being more problematic as the years go on. You end up getting trapped. So the younger you are, the more flexibility you have to run towards your fears. The older you get, if you have not done it, things will tend to be rough for you. And this leads to another concept, again, intertwined with being okay with discomfort, is that mastery does not occur in comfort. It's something that repeats itself over and over in different literatures. In this case, I'm looking at Andy Hunt's Pragmatic Thinking and Learning. And this excerpt reads, when discomfort is a signal of progress, you don't want to run away from it. You want to keep stumbling toward it to continue growing. Comfort in learning is a paradox. You can't become truly comfortable with a skill until you've practiced it enough to master it. But practicing it before you master it is uncomfortable, so you often avoid it. Accelerating learning requires a second form of courage, being brave enough to use your knowledge as you acquire it. So, a lot of us have a issue, and it stems from the fact of the way school is designed. It stems from the fact the way that work is kind of designed, that we're afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are bad. Mistakes lead to bad grades. Mistakes lead to reprimanding from your boss at work. Blah, 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 blah. But you know what? Make mistakes. I'm giving you permission to make as many mistakes as you can, as long as it's in the pursuit of learning more. You cannot expect to learn things without messing things up along the way. It's just not how things work. People got a problem with it. You know what? Tell them kiss your butt. You're human. Okay? No human is 100% accurate all the time. Bosses like to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you made a mistake. Meanwhile, they never share the mistakes that they make. They never share the mess ups that they do. It's always a big spotlight on you, though. You know what? Screw them. As long as you're learning, you have 100% permission by me to go ahead and make as many mistakes as you want. But you have to be learning. It cannot just be an empty exercise of you just messing up. In that case, you're kind of being a loser. That's just how it works. But if you are learning, and if you are gaining new insight from every mistake that you do and improving upon it, you are doing the best thing that you possibly can do in the long run. Do not just stick to what you know. Extend beyond that, because that is what will take you to the next level. Now, I want to end this off with not dying with music in your heart. So, we have to face the reality that at one point we are all going to die. It's kind of morbid, but it's the truth. And so we really are living life in preparation to die. So, what does that mean? Well, let's look at the words of Oliver Wendell Holmes here. Many people die with music still in them. Why is this so? Too often is because they are getting ready to live. Before they know it, time runs out. So let that seep in for a second. When they are getting ready to live. Now, I like to interpret this as people say, oh, when this happens, I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to start doing this at X time. And they keep pushing it forward, and they keep pushing it forward. They never really start doing anything. They never actually take action. How that action manifests, again, it could be a 1% thing. It could just be like, let's say if you want to start a business, getting an EIN number. That's an action forward. That's something you can see that you've done. If it's, I don't know, starting a dropship, is building your website, building a website. That is an action forward. Those little things, are you actually doing something? Or are you just saying until tomorrow, until the next night? Like there's a guy that I know I used to go to school with, and he says he is a future entrepreneur, and he's had that on his profile, I think now going on 4 years. And at the same time he has this on his profile, future entrepreneur, he also posts regularly saying that, wake and bake, I'm faded in the morning. I'm faded in the AM. And the man is like 30 something years old. And so, it's not in alignment with what he says he wants to be. And so I guarantee you, I almost 100% guarantee you that when he gets older, assuming he has not changed, assuming he stays on this trajectory, that he will have regrets and he will say something like, I wish I did something when I was younger. And that, that is the music. I wish I did something. I wish I made my vision a reality. I wish I really contributed to the world the gifts that I had. I really made best use of the gifts that I had. That is the music that you do not want to be left in your heart when you are ready to kick the bucket, We only have a finite amount of time on this earth, and you do not want to waste it, or you do not want to spend it in a way where when you are finally reflecting back on your life, you could say, I didn't spend it right. That's really what we're all trying to avoid. So I hope this video has been helpful. Please let me know. If you have any questions on it, particularly if you want to dive into something in particular of what we covered, let me know in the comments. As always, I want you to stay data-driven. It's Patrick from DataBytez. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until next time, peace.